Good day. In this video, I'm going to talk about interviewing techniques that candidates use to pass job interviews. And let me just start by saying that the other day, I believe it was, I tested an AI tool who was recording the conversations of job interviews and would basically provide you with answers to the interview questions you were asked on the spot, real time. You could read them from your computer screen. This was based, on the job description and your CV and various other elements. So let me just start by saying I don't believe that this is the way forward if you want to pass interviews for good paying jobs at least. And I wanted to share with you some of my experiences with people who do actually pass interviews primarily with FANGs, and I like to structure this into three parts. The first topic would be with respect to speed. Okay, so do candidates who interview fast pass interviews? And in my experience, this is rarely the case. Okay, the main scenario where a candidate would interview on speed and would give short answers would be for exceptionally talented people who would be challenged by the interviewers to answer interview questions quickly. For example, I once had a candidate in an Amazon final interview round. It was with a bar raiser, and the bar raiser went through all those then 14 leadership principles twice in one go. Okay, so 28 questions. Okay, so it is possible to interview quickly, but the benefit versus the risk you take to interview quickly is not worth it. Okay, so the vast majority of candidates interview slowly. Okay, so this is how people pass interviews, because if you interview slowly, chances are you will have the time to find the best possible story for the question you're asked. Okay, you will also limit the probability you'll make monumental mistakes. You will also be able to read between the lines and better understand the questions you're asked. Okay, and maybe one note here with respect to long versus short interview answers. In my experience, the best candidates I work with could speak at length about their best stories without rambling, of course. But the reasoning is that if you can speak at length about something which is your strength, you will bias your interviewer towards you, and therefore, be closer to a favorable decision, right? So in my experience, the vast majority of people who pass interviews with FANGs primarily are the ones who interview slowly and who give long, convincing first answers, right? Exceptions apply. It will always be the case, but this has been my experience. The second scenario I like to share with you here is with respect to your attitude, your focus while providing your answers, because there's plenty of candidates who focus on cosmetics during job interviews, such as using a literary English, or having a perfect sound during the interviews, or having a perfect video, or buying an HD webcam, or even a key light and all that stuff. And obviously those things are marginally significant. They don't really matter in job interviews, but something which I found that actually matters in these job interviews would be to have to be an educator. So if you manage to educate your interviewer that you're the right fit for the job, you are far more likely to be in that role. How do I know this? Well, I've had plenty of candidates who have teaching backgrounds. Some of them who could barely speak English and who passed interviews from their first try, simply because of this attitude that they were an educator, right? Many of the people I work with are already coaches. Okay, so already educators, people who already interview well and want to go one step further, right? And the other explanation for the educator pitch would be that, you may well remember someone, a teacher from school, who was someone, very good at what they were doing. They knew how to educate people, and one of the reasons is because they are memorable, right? So if you can educate your interviewer, in my experience, you're also far more significantly likely to get the job. Okay, and the third thing I like to talk about here is with respect to your focus during job interviews. Okay, it is probably far more commercial and far more popular advice to use cheat sheets during job interviews. Simply, because the nature of cheating, and you'll be surprised on the number of candidates who exhibit these behaviors whenever I talk to them. However, in my experience, cheat sheets are rarely efficient in these job interviews, and the only major scenario where I found cheat sheets to be of use is for people who can already interview well. Okay, so I've had candidates, around a dozen since I started this business, that they were able to read their answers from their computer screens or their story wall behind the camera. They could do this during job interviews without getting caught, and they did this successfully, and some of them even got up-leveled. Okay, but these are so exceptional cases. I'm speaking about every once in 200 instances or stuff like that. So this is, so I started saying that this is with respect to where your focus is during a job interview. This will be cheat sheets. Cheat sheets are not really that efficient unless you really want a bit of moral support, or at least you're exceptionally good and you know what you're doing, which is very unlikely for most candidates. But what actually works with respect to your focus during job interviews is to read the room, read your interviewer. Okay, so whenever you deliver an answer, assuming you can speak freely, you can speak on your strength about your story, the best candidates I work with, and it is a mainstream interviewing technique, best candidates also read the room, read their interviewer. Hey, are you happy with what I'm saying? If this is suspicious, maybe interrupting. Hey, am I going in the right direction? Would you like me to use another story? Am I going too long? Maybe it's too short. Understanding how your interviewer evaluates you during a job interview is by far the most efficient interviewing technique I've heard of. Right? So, long story short, try to read the room, try to show as an educator if this is your style, if it's something feasible in your case, and interview slowly. At least these are the interviewing techniques which are the most efficient in my experience working with various candidates. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.